news media. President Donald Trump praised outgoing White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer on Twitter Friday, while griping that he endured tremendous abuse from news outlets. Sean Spicer is a wonderful person who took tremendous abuse from the fake news media, but his future is bright. The president said in a social media post late Friday. The message came just 2 hours following the White House's official announcement that the president had accepted Spicer's resignation, a move that caused a big shakeup for the White House press team. The Trump administration also announced on Friday that Anthony Scara, a former Wall Street financier and occasional TV analyst, would take over the vacant communications director role, and that Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders would take over for Spicer, though he will stay on in the White House through August. In multiple White House statements Friday, Trump praised Spicer's great television ratings, despite Spicer not delivering an on-camera briefing since June 20. The lack of screen time has been a growing point of contention among the White House press corps. Spicer's press briefings, which were frequently carried live by broadcasters, were marked by repeated heated exchanges with reporters. They also gained increasing cultural prominence, with parodies filling the airwaves of late-night TV. President Trump thanked Spicer for his contributions to the West Wing in a statement Friday night. "I am grateful for Sean's work on behalf of my administration and the American people," he said, according to the press secretary's office. Scara, whose addition to the White House reportedly drove Spicer to resign Friday, praised Spicer in his first appearance at the press podium, adding that he hopes the former GOP communications officials goes on to make a tremendous amount of money. Spicer said it was a tremendous honor to serve the president as press secretary in a statement, adding, "In just 6 months, President Trump and his staff have done great work to advance the interests of the American people, both at home and abroad." President Trump's unwavering commitment to making America great again will no doubt ensure that these successes continue in the coming months and years. Justice spokeswoman questions report of Sessions' exchange with Russian officials. A Justice Department spokeswoman on Friday questioned the credibility of the report that Attorney General Jeff Sessions discussed campaign-related topics with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. The Washington Post, citing anonymous sources, reported on Friday that Kislyak had told his supervisors in Russian that he and Sessions had talked about campaign-related topics important to the Kremlin during the 2016 presidential race. The alleged exchange would appear contradict sworn testimony by Sessions. "Obviously I can't comment on the reliability of what anonymous sources describe in a wholly uncorroborated intelligence intercept that the Washington Post has not seen and that has not been provided to me," Justice Department spokeswoman Sarah Flores said. Flores added that Sessions stood by testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee last month when he stated he never met with or had any conversations with any Russians or any foreign officials concerning any type of interference with any campaign or election. Sessions seemingly wavered on the same when speaking to reporters back in March. "I don't recall, but most of these ambassadors are pretty gossipy and they like to. This was in campaign season, but I don't recall any specific political discussions," he said. Another Trump administration official, Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats, also appeared to question the story. "I have come to the point where I no longer put any stock in headlines or breaking news," Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats said Friday at the Aspen Security Forum, adding that he needed to inspect for further details before trying to draw a conclusion. Former spy chief stare into Trump. Aspen, Colorado, 2 former top U.S. intelligence officials tore into President Donald Trump on Friday, saying in sometimes personal terms that Trump has shown disrespect for intelligence officials and a distasteful affinity for Russian President Vladimir Putin, and warning he may be endangering U.S. national security. The 2 former Obama administration officials, former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper and former CIA Director John Brennan, also strongly defended their response to Russia's meddling in the 2016 presidential election against criticism that they had not sufficiently punished Putin. I think we did pretty damn well. There was no playbook for this, Brennan said, adding that he threw a high, hard one at his Russian counterpart in a phone call last summer warning the Russians to stop interfering in the election. This is uncharted seas that we were trying to navigate, Clapper added. Both men endorsed the creation of a law requiring regular disclosures to Congress of foreign cyber intrusions before U.S. elections. But it was a sustained critique of Trump that dominated their joint appearance before an audience of national security insiders panel discussion here at the Aspen Security Forum in Aspen, Colorado. Noting that he had served 6 presidents, Brennan said that Trump's actions on the world stage had raised serious questions about how he is keeping safe our national security. Both men specifically cited Trump's recent meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the G20 summit in Hamburg. Brennan said he was unhappy to hear Trump tell Putin, in front of television cameras in Germany, that it was a great honor to meet the Russian leader. He noted that Putin had annexed Ukrainian territory and is alleged to have condoned the murder of critics and political opponents. For a person who supposedly knows the art of the deal, I thought it was a very bad negotiating tactic and I felt that it was not the honorable thing to say, Brennan said. Both men criticized Trump's after-dinner conversation with Putin in Hamburg, joined only by a Kremlin translator. Clapper called that very dangerous, warning of the risk of miscommunication. Brennan added that the nature of the conversation could allow Trump to distort or conceal details of their private conversation. Quite frankly, I think there are concerns that sometimes what Mr. Trump says happens is not exactly what happens, Brennan said. I think it just raises again concerns about what else may be going on between Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin that is being held behind closed doors and outside of public view. The White House has insisted that Trump's dinner chat with Putin was relatively brief and in line with past diplomatic practice, though many foreign policy experts disagree. The two intelligence veterans, gruff by nature, appeared relaxed and even relieved at their recent retirements from government service. But their mood repeatedly darkened when asked by the moderator, CNN anchor Wolf Blitzer, to respond to Trump's public statements and tweets, including some likening intelligence agencies to Nazi security services. Brennan excoriated Trump for critical comments about the intelligence community too, saying the information the agencies provide has been instrumental in allowing past presidents to push back against Russian aggression, including during the Cuban Missile Crisis. These types of comments are just disgraceful, never should have happened, and the person who said that should be ashamed of themselves, Brennan said, to sustained applause. Both men questioned the motives and risky and profoundly baffling decision by Donald Trump Jr. and top campaign aides Paul Manafort and Jared Kushner to meet with a Russian lawyer and others dangling damaging information about his opponent, Hillary Clinton, during the election. And they said they remain perplexed by Trump's continued refutation of U.S. intelligence assessments about Russia's meddling in the election, and Putin's personal involvement in it, especially when it came at the expense of the intelligence agencies now under his command. After seeing Trump invoke Nazi Germany in a January tweet critical of U.S. intelligence agencies, which he accused of leaking fake news about his connections to Russia, Clapper said he called Trump to complain. I was amazed he took the call, Clapper said. He added that Trump heard out his complaint, then urged Clapper to issue a public statement refuting the contents of a private dossier compiled by a former British intelligence operative and leaked to the media alleging extensive Russian influence over Trump and his associates. Clapper declined to do so. The former intelligence chief added that he was upset again when Trump, during a recent visit to Poland, cast doubt on the accuracy of U.S. intelligence findings that Russia interfered in the 2016 election. I was particularly distressed by, when in a foreign country, Poland, he's disparaging his own intelligence community, which, to me, put him at a great disadvantage in the run-up to the meeting with President Putin, Clapper said. Brennan noted that intelligence agencies have been instrumental in allowing past presidents to push back against Russian aggression, including during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So these types of comments are just disgraceful, never should have happened, and the person who said that should be ashamed of themselves, Brennan said, to sustained applause. Both men have been critical of Trump before, but not in such an unvarnished fashion. In some respects, Brennan said, "We're a nation in crisis right now." At one point, the sustained nature of their criticism prompted Clapper to pause for some comic relief. "By the way," he said, "if John and I are being too subtle here, let us." Scara says he's deleting old tweets to avoid a distraction. Incoming White House Communications Director Anthony Scara acknowledged on Saturday that he is deleting past Twitter messages that seemingly conflicted with President Donald Trump's views and policy agenda. "Full transparency, I'm deleting old tweets. Past views evolved and shouldn't be a distraction. I serve a POTUS agenda and that's all that matters," Scara wrote on Twitter Saturday afternoon. He added later that the politics of gotcha are over. "I have a thick skin and we're moving on to a POTUS agenda serving the American people," Scara wrote on Twitter. After he was announced as White House Communications Director Friday, journalists scoured through Scara old messages, unearthing instances of daylight between the communications director and his new boss. According to the Daily Beast, Scara had tweeted that he hoped Hillary Clinton, Trump's general presidential election foe and frequent target of his criticism, would run for president in 2016. He also appeared to back more stringent gun control laws, according to Wired, a stance Trump has opposed. Scara also made since-deleted comments critical of Trump, calling him an odd guy and maligning his plans to build a wall along the southern U.S. border, writing, "Walls don't work. Never have, never will." A former Wall Street financier, Scara, like Trump, has financially supported Democratic candidates in the past. Scara also failed to initially endorse Trump during the Republican primaries, backing the candidacies of Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker and former Florida Governor Jeb Bush over Trump. Addressing some of the pushback, Trump wrote on Twitter on Saturday that Scara wanted to endorse me first, before the Republican primary started, but didn't think I was right. Scara praises Breitbart in first interview since communications appointment. Newly named White House Communications Director Anthony Scara on Saturday praised conservative news site Breitbart News and its political editor Matt Boyle during his first interview since being tapped to join the Trump administration. "One of the things Breitbart has done is you've captured the spirit of what's actually going on in the country," Scara told Boyle during an interview on Breitbart News Saturday on SiriusXM. Scara further joked with Boyle that he was surprised the editor had not sent in his resume for West Wing consideration yet. Scara said he is aiming to get Trump's unfiltered message through to his supporters via the president's Twitter feed, bypassing mainstream outlets that Trump often calls fake news while hoping to de-escalate what Scara sees as unfairness and bias in the media. "We have enough outlets, whether it's Breitbart, the president's social media feed, all of the different apparatus that we have where people will also us to deliver our message to the American people unfiltered," Scara said. "We're having a rough time with the mainstream media, but last time I checked during the campaign we were having a rough time with the mainstream media and the people see through it." Trump has boasted that his 140-character missives allow him to eschew more traditional forums like White House press conferences for getting his message out. But some Republicans in Congress have become increasingly agitated with those statements, especially when they veer far from the Hill's efforts to pass GOP and Trump legislative initiatives. Founded by the late Andrew Breitbart, the conservative news site garnered a reputation for boosting the alt-right movement under the leadership of former leader Steve Bannon, who left Breitbart to join Donald Trump's presidential campaign and now serves as Trump's chief strategist. Bannon, along with White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, is reportedly furious with the president for naming Scara to such a high-ranking role. Sean Spicer resigned as White House press secretary when it was announced that Scara, a Wall Street financier, would be joining the administration. President Trump was reportedly sold on Scara for The New Yorker's repeated cable TV appearances where he defended the president and his policies. The president, who just this morning re-upped his disdain for fake news, is particularly pleased with Scara's ability to extract a correction from CNN for a since retracted story about the financier and alleged Russian connections. 3 CNN staffers resigned following the publication and subsequent retraction of the story.